Hello everybody, I'm back here at the Raptor factory. Thank you very much for them to show you again and give you a little bit of an update on the SR2M and make some corrections to some little mistakes I made in the last video there. First off, actually I wanted to show you the thing itself and the brown furniture more clearly. So earlier in the previous video, I had some lights around my camera so that I could light up any dark areas on the inside. But those lights were a bit on the warm side, a bit on the orangey side, and then close up, the furniture color wasn't all that visible. But the ambient lighting here is actually pretty decent. So I wanted to show you what the brown furniture is like here. I've seen some discussion online that think that should be more plum. I don't know the reality of just how plum, or if it is plum at all even, with the SR-2M Airsoft, as it's called. Don't know the reality of it. Video games, I noticed, like to make it plum, or I've seen various things of that sort. The pictures I've seen online of it seem to just be a straight brown. Don't know what the reality is on that. This version will have this, maybe, if there's proof that the more accurate version is plum, they can make another edition of the furniture to sell to people if people are really interested. Don't know, but this is what the sample is. The black sample, actually, I don't have on hand. It is currently in Japan, in Nagoya. This gun has been very popular with Japanese airsofters, and there's apparently a lot of people who want it already, and the Japanese stores and distributors are already asking, get it to me as soon as you can. So there's already a sample over there for them to do testing with and show off at a airsoft festival, I believe in Nagoya, which happened, today's Monday, should have happened on Sunday, I think. So you may see some more media around that as well. So that is the appearance and a little bit talking about the brown furniture there. Let me also repeat, or correct rather, one of the mistakes that I made last time, which is that this mechanism in this guy here is not a bolt hold open. I call it a bolt hold open because I was discussing with the boss and we started using the incorrect terminology, and I just did not think about that properly in the old brain there. But this is a stop on empty mechanism, actually. Here, you can see here. There's also, if I was thinking about it, I would have realized I didn't have a chance to actually fire the BBs last time I was around, which also kind of exacerbated things. But you see this will stop on empty here by popping this up. So the mechanism here is, this is a lever which is actuated by the follower, of course, and what that does is this pops up this guy. So if you pull down the follower, press that in, that will lock in. There is a fairly small but functional engagement surface on this lever here. And then you put in BBs, and then once you're done shooting, it pops up like that with the follower there. It seems to function in my testing. I've tested it with BBs now. If you go very softly, it will stay, but it doesn't take much. So this should pretty reliably lock open. And then basically functionally what you do is you have to go, boom, fill it full of BBs, and then when you're done filling full of BBs, you have to, I want to pull this down, push this down, and then we'll lock it in place. And of course, once you're done again, it pops up and it stops the valve from getting hit by blocking it physically. Pretty decent way of doing it. Only thing you have to be aware of is that after you refill the mechanism, you have to pop that down. Similar to sort of like the VFC G3s and like HK53 series and such and so on have a somewhat similar mechanism. It's one way of doing it. This seems like it will be perfectly fine. My only concern is that maybe you get these surfaces to wear, but even at worst, you're just gonna shoot blanks after your BBs are done. So should be okay, I think. So that is the correction for the bolt hold open last shot there. The other thing I wanted to talk about, oh yes, this is this is me. So this is more about like the tone of videos and then the intended audience for them. And then what I did before was I said, which is completely wrong, is I said that this was internally AK based. What I was thinking in my mind was I wanted to talk about how the aesthetics of this kind of scream Soviet or Russian weapons, you know, the dust cover. To a lay person, that may look like, oh, it looks kind of like the AK-47 dust cover. Though a true lay person who knows nothing about guns may not recognize that at all. But I think that this does kind of look somewhat distinctly Russian as a weapon. But when I said it in the video, I said, I think this is internally AK based, which was a mix up of me. I did actually know that that's not the case. This is more based apparently upon the AS3, which is in turn based upon the AS Val, is my understanding. I'm not a huge expert on Russian weapons because I'm not super familiar and it's not really my thing so much. So some people correctly pointed out that was incorrect. No, so that is correct. It's one of these things where I was trying to talk about how it looks Russian, and then I mixed up my words a lot. Similarly, I had a thing where I did an early preview of the VFC Carl Gustav, the Moz there, and in my title, I intentionally and understandingly said it referred to it as a rocket launcher. And that's incorrect because it is technically a recoilless rifle, but I want to have some more people see it and kind of orient the way I talk in a way that is more understandable to a larger audience, sometimes even a little bit at the expense of the very enthusiast audience who knows a lot more about the internals and knows a lot more about the details of this gun stuff. There's some serious gun nerds out there, and you will definitely catch me making some mistakes with something like this where I'm going unscripted. So, quick correction on that. It is very much not internally related to an AK, and indeed you see here actually, because this isn't the real one, I guess this is a striker system here, right? So this spring, which kind of, in this case, almost functions a little bit as a secondary recoil spring, as I was showing off in the previous video, and if you haven't seen it, you should of course see that. Even without this recoil rod, you're getting enough momentum often enough to put this guy in there, to rather slam the bolt home even without the recoil rod, because you have this kind of effectively secondary recoil rod. And the real one, this is acting as the striker shoot, is my understanding. So, with that out of the way, the next big old mistake I made, there you go, is that this does not shoot 160 meters per second. I think I mentioned that totally offhand. That was something that the boss had mentioned something about a number, and I don't know if I just misheard or whatnot. I thought that it was shooting, and at the time I thought too, that's very hot, but that is way, way too high. Let me do a real quick shooting test for you, as long as I don't have, let me actually see if I double feed here. Yeah, there's a BB in there. Let's do a little chrono on this. Boom. See here, I got my chronograph, which would be nice to turn on. I hear that helps. And let's go. These are with 0.32 BLS tracers, actually. Boom. There you go. There. Okay, of that nature, it's shooting about 80, between 87 and 80, and you need to settle down a little bit there, but it's pretty consistently shooting 81, 82 meters per second with 0.32s, which is around 1 joule-ish, if you want to actually show me the thing. Yeah, it's a bit over 1 joule. So normal, if you will, and good for a kind of pistol size. This is around pistol size, really. This is a long pistol size, maybe, I think it's like 120 or something like that, outer inner barrel. I shouldn't give numbers when I haven't confirmed that, so don't take that 120 as totally correct. But it's shooting fine. It is not shooting as super hot like I kind of suggested before. It had some, what's it called? A little bit of back and forth there at the beginning. And this is something that is probably because this is a sample. Now these springs in this gun are all handmade. Next week they say they're gonna get their full production springs in, and then we can do some testing with the production model. And I will get a production model, and I will be able to test that out more fully. I was doing some shooting testing with this as well. However, because these springs are not the final ones, they're actually not heat treated. These are all handmade springs, so they're a little bit janky. Very functional, and if you're functioning with softer, janky springs, you're doing okay. But they're not done. And here in this room is air conditioned. It's about 28 degrees right now. Outside I was shooting at a 50-meter range, and I was having some light strikes because we're in a tin roof factory and we're actually on the second floor and hot air rises. So it's probably, I don't have a heat thing, but it feels like 40 to maybe as high as 45 Celsius outside there where we're shooting. So these springs have probably taken a little bit of a set. And the last video, this was dry fire, no problem. But then when you go outside to the heat, it gets to start light striking a bit because the gas is so hot. I was using normal 12 kilogram gas here, and not functioning as well as I would like. However, if I cool the magazine down a little bit intentionally, it does function. So I'm gonna splice in some footage here I have shooting at 50 yards. In the length of the factory, basically, they have a little range and you can shoot from a balcony out here on the second floor down to a man-sized target. They have about 50 meters away. It should be about, they tell me 50 meters, I paced it, it was 65 paces for me and I'm 185 centimeters. So it should be about right. I wasn't stretching my legs as much as I should have probably. So it should be about 50 meters, maybe a little more if anything. And let me tell you, this hop, kind of a basic, if you will, rotary hop, works seemingly very well. I was able to consistently hit a man-sized target, freehand, without using a rest or anything, just testing out the hop, if you will, at 50 meters with 0.32 gram BLS tracer BBs. So I'm gonna splice in that footage. All right, 50 meter, 32 BLS BBs. Let's see if we can get it to work here. There we go. Let's see here. Gas there. Hopefully that came out. And you can see that basically I think there's no concerns about accuracy. And I think that this will be a very good performer out of the box is what it looks like. But pending to get the final stuff, everything I say does have to have the caveat that it is a sample, and then something like the spring weights. Frequently spring weights, you have to change them around depending upon the market and so on. And depending upon the conditions, it varies, right? So once I have the final springs, I will do more tests. I couldn't get as good of a shooting test as I wanted to, but when I was doing the test and not getting light strikes because it's incredibly hot and the springs are not the production springs, it performed very well. And I could hit man-sized targets with iron sights easily at 50 meters. So looking very promising, and that's, you know, not with me changing any buckings, not with me messing around with it, literally grabbing it, slapping a magazine in, making sure the hop was on the high side, and then shooting some BBs, which is not scientific testing, it's not complete testing, but I think it's a fair representation of what you can probably get out of the box here. So, quick little update on this, a couple of corrections on the silly mistakes I made in the last video, another look with some kind of better ambient lighting, and then a preview, if you will, of the more thorough shooting tests that I will do with the production version. But I will say, it is looking very good. I know some people in the comments and such have some doubts, if you will, about Raptor and exactly how reliable they are. I know that their pistol had some functional issues and so on. This is, I think, an easier project, and they've perhaps learned from issues in the past, and I'm really looking forward to this. Thank you very much, and please look forward to some more testing stuff on the production version.